quick programming note before we start the show. We recorded this episode before the coronavirus became a worldwide pandemic. So it's possible that some events we mention in the show have now been canceled, such as the St. Patrick's Day Parade. Please check before going to anything. But even more important than that, please follow any advisories, use caution, and above all else, stay healthy.
Check. 1, 2, 3.
The D.
Brief.
This is the D Brief.
Your guide to Detroit.
Your guide to Detroit's
arts and entertainment scene.
This is the D.
Brief.
Hello and welcome to the podcast for and about Detroit artists and entertainers. I am Seth Ressler.
And I'm Becky Scarcello.
And joining us on today's show, Mark Kurlyandchik. He's the restaurant critic over at the Detroit Free Press, and he's going to talk about his just put out a list of the best new restaurants in the city. We'll find out what they are. And also supposedly he's going vegan, so we'll see what that's
experiment.
all about. Joining us again today, and she's been with us all week, is actress and director Casaundra Freeman. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes.
You've got this show, The Puppeteer, which runs through this weekend. This is the closing weekend, last chance for people to go see it.
Last chance.
It's happening at the Detroit Rep Theatre, and you've been you directed it. So.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I had a
What do you like
wonderful time.
better, directing, acting, or a mix?
It's just a different muscle. You know, it's just a different muscle. I can't say that I like either one better, but this one, I enjoyed directing it. Yep.
All right, Becky, let's start off the show with some trivia.
Sure. So next Tuesday, St. Patrick's Day, wearing of the green, something many people here in Detroit celebrate. Of course, we've got Corktown. We've got this huge parade. And, you know, it was really the center where many Irish immigrants came. So we still sort of celebrate that history. Corktown has races, and you can do various lengths. So the classic is the 5K Corktown race, but you can also run the Emerald Mile, the Dublin Double, which is the mile plus the 5K, or there's a kids quarter mile. So
wait, you can
got
mix
options.
metric and
You can.
whatever you call not metric. What do you call not metric? English? American? Stupid?
English.
I don't know.
It's not English because British use.
You can't do a 5K and a mile. That's wrong. First of all, I don't even know which one's longer.
Oh, the 5K. 5K is like 3.5 miles.
3.5 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Why don't they just call it 4.5 miles then?
Because that's not as cool.
I don't want, it's bad enough that I'm running. I don't want to have to do math on top of it.
You just run till they tell you crossed the finish line.
Yeah.
All right.
So for the run, costumes are highly encouraged and people do get creative. It's kind of like the turkey trot, but even more so. Lots of costumes. The proceeds from the race benefit the St. Patrick's Senior Center. At the end, you get beer, you get a cool medal, and you always get a t-shirt. So here's my trivia question. What Detroit landmark is on this year's green t-shirt?
What Detroit landmark is on this year's green
T-shirt for the Corktown race?
For what landmark would you choose?
Landmark. Jeez.
I mean, you know, it could be
Corktown?
something like Spirit of Detroit. That's kind of, you know, like
That's what
basic.
I mean, that's what I was thinking.
It's not going to be the Ren Center.
Does it have to still be? Is it still standing?
Yes, it is.
It is still standing. Is it
Okay.
Corktown related?
I'm not going to tell you that.
Oh,
No,
why? I
geez.
can't even. What landmarks
That
are
would
in
narrow it
Corktown?
down.
What is the landmark in Corktown? Is it the clock? The
I don't know, because I was going to say Tiger Stadium, but it's still standing, so it's not my
so it's
guess.
What kind of landmark would you put on a T-shirt?
I don't know.
What else is in Corktown? I will give it to you. It is in Corktown.
It is in Corktown.
It is
so
in
What's a really huge thing in Corktown? Really big?
Is it the bridge?
No.
Oh, that's not Corktown, is it? No, not technically.
Big building in Corktown.
the train station.
Yes.
The train station.
Train station.
Duh.
Of course,
wasn't,
it was
of course.
sold to Ford, and they're moving in. So
Right.
what
right.
better this year to think to the future and hail the past at
Because
the same time?
I wasn't there at all. I was still thinking of, you know, the train station that I know, the one that's abandoned.
Yeah,
so.
right.
Yeah, that's great.
From time to time, we like to have somebody call in who is an expert in a subject that you and I are not. And even though we have spent a lot of time eating over the course of our lives,
Oh, yes.
we have found somebody who is actually better at it than we are. Mark Kurlyandchik is the restaurant critic for the Detroit Free Press. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Seth. That's a great intro. Although I don't think I'm any more expert than anyone else, other than the fact that maybe I, fill most of my days thinking about these things and write about it. But expert, always a student, never an expert.
Well, my mom would point out that I have a bad habit of like chewing my food like twice and then swallowing.
Oh, not savoring.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm not good at that. I need to
I'm
get
a
better
very
at that.
slow eater, so yeah, I'm good at that.
Hey, Mark, not long ago, you had a list of the top 10 best new restaurants in the city of Detroit. Let's talk about a few of those. And we've only got a few minutes here. I don't think we can go over all 10.
Let's do top 3.
Yeah, let's start with number 3. What was number 3 on the list? Saffron de Trois.
Saffron de Trois. Yeah, Saffron de Trois is it's Omar Anani's Moroccan-inspired place on the east side. It's on Gratiot, kind of Gratiot and Van Dyke almost. Not a ton of hot dining spots around there, although it's not too far from Pink's place. But Omar used to run a food truck, and then he wanted to go brick and mortar, and opened up this. It's a small little. It's a Moroccan kind of street food inspired place. They have great, they kind of jumped on this fried chicken sandwich craze, and they have a Moroccan version of the fried chicken sandwich. Then they have some more traditional stuff like lamb tagine, and one of my favorite dishes there actually is vegan. Coincidentally, it's the vegan cauliflower shawarma sandwich. And it comes in this bread called batbout, which is a traditional Moroccan bread that's pan-fried. And it is just, I could eat that every day. And Saffron has gotten so much attention lately. They just got a semifinalist nod from the James Beard Foundation for Best New Restaurant in the country. And when if you go there yourself and drive by, you'll kind of think from the outside, like, wow, that's unexpected. But then you go in and you experience Chef Omar's warm hospitality and the great food, and it all kind of clicks. But yeah, Saffron de Trois is a special place.
Nice. So that's number 3. What's number 2 on your list?
The runner-up was Yum Village. Yum Village is actually, it's another food truck operator who's gone brick and mortar. Godwin Ihintugi is the chef owner there. And Yum Village is an Afro-Caribbean restaurant. And Godwin has, if you talk to the guy, he's almost like a motivational speaker. He's got this really infectious energy and big dreams of being, the Chipotle of Afro-Caribbean food. And whether or not he gets there, it almost, it doesn't matter, because the food that's being served out of Yum Village is just excellent. It's affordable, fast, fresh, local products that are being used to make Afro-Caribbean cuisine, like jerk chicken, jollof rice. They have a dish called mafe, which is kind of a West African peanut stew, but they serve it on top of these French fries. So it's almost like a West African poutine, to make a bad analogy. But it's just delicious, and you can eat it probably every day and not get sick of it.
And when you say this is, his dream is to be Chipotle, this is a place where they actually make the food right in front of you, like Chipotle does?
No, it's not. It's not like there's no counter there where you pick your things. It's fast casual. So you do go up to the counter and you order. So Chipotle has kind of just become the shorthand for successful fast casual. Although I think they're kind of failing now. But so he just wants to have Yum Villages all across America that are providing good jobs. He also is really community centered, much like Omar at number 3, where he hires from the community. He hires young high school kids, trains them, and they actually get to put menu items like specials on the menu. And then if that menu item sells, they take a cut of the profit, which is just it's
genius.
it's really kind of he wants to revolutionize the restaurant industry and just make it a better place for everyone.
Love that. I like this concept too of the food trucks and the pop-ups transitioning so well into a brick and mortar. Do you think that's a model that'll be, growing in stature?
I don't actually, because it's really hard to do. These two happen to make it this year, but I was counting on my hand the other day, and I could count them on my hand, the number of food trucks that have successfully gone brick and mortar. And there are a few out there for sure, but I find that I think pop-ups actually are a better way to go, just because the overhead is low. I mean, food trucks, you still have to maintain a vehicle and a kitchen. and everything else that goes along with it. And there's actually higher barrier to entries than I think food trucks were originally touted as. So to see these two make it this year is kind of a coincidence that they both did, and a great success on their parts.
All right, let's talk about the number one restaurant on the list.
Yeah, number one this year is Layla. Layla is it's a modern Lebanese restaurant from the same family that's been running Lebanese restaurants in Metro Detroit for almost 50 years. It's the Eid family. Samir Eid founded Phoenicia in Highland Park in 1971. And Samir always makes this joke that, to make it in the restaurant industry, he's this old school restaurateur who still goes down to the produce terminal 3 days a week and buys his own produce for the restaurant. And the guy just turned 80 years old. So that tells you a little bit about who Samir is. But he's made this joke for a long time that, when you're in the restaurant business like he is, you are married to the restaurant, and he always says, I've been married for 40 whatever years. I have a mistress at home and a wife called Phoenicia. And the mistress's name happens to be Layla, his wife of 40 some years. And so their son, Sammy, who now has been running the day-to-day operations at the family's 3 restaurants now, wanted to kind of give Layla her due, his mother, who has been kind of the grounding force and kept the family together. And the restaurant really is inspired by Sunday dinners at Layla's house. So it's comfort food. It's Lebanese food. It's pretty traditional, but there are a couple things that you won't find at any other Lebanese restaurants around town, like the Layla's Bolognese, which is basically, just spaghetti bolognese, but with lamb instead of beef and some pine nuts thrown in for good measure to make it a little extra Lebanese. And I just love that dish. And it's a beautiful space in the historic Farwell building, ground floor, overlooking Capitol Park. With high ceilings. It's upscale. It's gorgeous. And it's open lunch and dinner, and it's a high volume restaurant. Despite being restaurant of the year, you could probably still get in during lunch. But they just do some, what I think is uncommon. There's so much good Middle Eastern food, and particularly Lebanese food, in Metro Detroit. But there are a few places that you can go and order a nice bottle of wine with your Lebanese, with your shawarma or with your hummer or whatever it is that you're ordering. And that kind of makes Layla unique. And it really is, to me, kind of the crown jewel of Middle Eastern dining in downtown Detroit proper, which, I don't think we've had here since there used to be a place called The Chic that closed, 20 some years ago.
Right. It was missing. Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've got those 3, and then you've got 7 others on the list. People can go check them out and make their new to-do list, all the places that they got to.
Right. And as diverse as these 3 you just mentioned in terms of flavor and origin, it just gets even more so rounding out your 10, which I love.
Oh, yeah. We've got Chinese hot pot. We've got, just a little bit of everything. A classic American diner on there, upscale Italian. I mean, I hope a place for every taste and price point that's out there.
Mm-hmm. All right, Mark, I heard a rumor that you are going vegan. Is that true? What's going on?
Well, it's not a rumor. It's not going anymore. I've been vegan for 9 days now. Although I was pretty quickly given a lesson on my nomenclature here. I'm actually not vegan. I'm following a plant-based diet, an exclusively plant-based diet. The vegans out there actually out on the internet pointed that out pretty quickly, that vegan is a lifestyle that includes, not using leather or any type of animal products. And I'm just kind of focusing on the diet aspect of it.
Yep. So how's it going so far?
It's going a lot better than maybe not better. I would say there are so many more options out there than I had even realized. I mean, part of the reason I did this was because there's just this growing movement, this plant-based movement, and you can see it in things like, the Impossible Burger now being served at White Castle. Mm-hmm. It's just one small example of that. And also, I just needed a detox after all that restaurant of the year eating.
Oh, I bet.
And I eat a lot of meat, and so I figured, what better way to really dive in and really get to know kind of this community, because it is its own separate community. And the outpouring of support that I received from people when I announced that I was doing this has been overwhelming. I've actually spent most of the last couple work days just replying to emails and people on social media, telling me you got to make this recipe, or you got to go to this place and try this, or, follow this blog, or just all sorts of resources. So I've been really supported in this endeavor, and so far so good.
The pictures you've been posting and the things you've been trying just look amazing. Looks great. So I think once you tune into it, like you said, you've realized there's a lot more out there than you even thought. And obviously,
Yeah, and for me, it was always kind of an afterthought, because it's a part on, maybe I'd have something that was vegan and I'd say, oh, this is vegan. That's cool. But it wasn't, I wasn't necessarily eating it with intent or looking at a menu from that perspective. And so, doing this for a whole month has kind of forced me to change my perspective, rather than just giving, lip service to, oh, they also have vegan options. I'm trying to live it as really as possible, as truly as possible, and learn from it that way. And again, not coming into this as an expert, but as a student trying to just learn about this growing sector of our lifestyle.
What's the thing you've had that maybe surprised you the most so far?
I mean, the thing that really floored me was the Big Mac at Chili Mustard Onions, which is there's a vegan Coney Island in Brush Park.
Yeah.
So everything there is vegan. They do Coney Islands, but they also do like the Big Mac is a riff on the Big Mac. And honestly, I think that if I ever have another craving for a Big Mac in my life, I will just go to Chili Mustard Onions and get it there. Because I can get it with like really awesome vegan chili cheese fries that are like super smoky and spicy, and the cheese is actually runny. But also because you don't get this, for me, I'm not finding that I have that like midday slump after my meal.
Right,
I can have the Big Mac and go for a jog afterwards and feel great.
He's almost talking me into doing this.
No, I
don't know.
No, you don't have that lethargy.
Well, you don't have the sluggishness, and you don't have, all the guilt that comes with it, whether it's the guilt that comes with eating an animal or the environmental impact of raising animals. I mean, there are all these various reasons, including health, that people should do this. And I think it's just a great experience. I don't think everyone needs to go vegan for a month or should be vegan forever. But for me, it's certainly opened my eyes. And I think going forward after this month is over, I will be a different type of eater, and I will certainly be incorporating a lot more of these
it's like a religious
products.
experience.
Yeah, I love it.
Cool.
I'm still making my way through the fire, still baptized by the fire.
When you're bare feet over the coals, yeah.
Well, cool. Well, Mark, thank you so much for checking in. It's always good to talk to you, and people can, of course, find your column over at the Detroit Free Press. Look, good luck with the rest of the vegan experiment.
Yeah,
let us know how it goes.
We'll check back in with you, and we'll also let people know as it comes up your top 10 takeover dinners that you do at each of the restaurants that you chose.
Yeah, I think we're going to be launching the dates for those soon. We're nailing down dates. So those are dinners that we do at each one of the best new restaurants. And the first one is going to be sometime mid to late April. So, keep checking freep.com or the Detroit Free Press, and we'll announce dates and the full lineup soon.
Cool.
Perfect.
Thanks, Mark.
Great. Thanks, guys.
We've got an artist opportunity to let you know about. The Stony Creek Metro Park Art Fair is now accepting submissions. This happens in July in Shelby Township. The deadline to apply is April 6th if you're an artist and you want to sell your wares there. Let's do some event recommendations. Becky, what have you got?
Yeah, so this weekend, this looked very cool to me. There's an event called To Stevie with Love, a tribute to Stevie Wonder. So it's celebrating his musical genius with vocal and instrumental jazz renditions of his songs. So by local Detroit artists and up-and-coming jazz people. So it's presented by the Carr Center. It's directed by Terry Lynn Carrington. So I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she's a jazz drummer, a composer, a singer, a record producer. Like, she's a star, crazy good jazz artist. So she's toured with tons of biggies, including like Herbie Hancock for 10 years of his touring around the world, that kind of thing. So she's directing this whole thing. It's going to be held at the Detroit School of Arts High School. That's the one that's near Orchestra Hall. That's Saturday night, March 14th, Stevie Wonder tribute.
All right, Cassandra, you've got this big show closing out.
I do. So this is the closing weekend for the Puppeteer, and we're closing out, and we're all done on March 15th. So be sure to catch us. We're running Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 2 shows on Saturday and Sunday.
So give us the rundown again. What's this all about?
So this one is a multi-generational piece, starting in the Harlem Renaissance, running up through the present day, and it's how racism is dealt with in different decades. So it's a wonderful piece.
We
learn a lot.
Right? It's all, we're done. It's perfect now, right?
Right.
Perfect now, especially.
Yeah, all set. All set.
Especially now.
Hey, if you're looking for another way to get all Irish with the celebration of St. Patrick's Day, Puppeteer Pottery has their Celtic celebration. It's happening this Saturday, March 14th at noon. There's going to be Irish music, Irish dancers, and artisan demonstrations. But I don't know when the last time you were over at Puppeteer Pottery is.
You know, we use Puppeteer Pottery a lot at the Detroit Repertory Theatre. So when we do when we give out awards for best actor, best director, they do our do our plaques and whatnot.
Oh, that's
sure.
cool.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
That's
really, really
way
cool.
better than going to the just sports trophy store.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
picking
it's
something off the
really
shelf.
beautiful. It's beautiful.
Piece of art. Yeah,
it's
I
a
used to work
beautiful piece of
there
art.
for a little bit. Yeah, it was a great place to work.
Well, it's going to be a family-friendly event this Saturday, so go check it out. Casaundra Freeman has been directing The Puppeteer over at Detroit Rep. It's closing this weekend. Thank you so much for joining us again today.
Yeah.
We'll have you back one more time
One more
tomorrow. Want to let people know that if they are in a band or are musical artists, they can submit songs to this podcast as well, because we end every episode of the podcast with a song by a local artist.
That's so awesome.
Spread the word to all your
love that.
musician friends.
I will. And I have a
Stand-up
lot of them.
comedians as well. If you're a
Yes,
stand-up comedian,
comedy
you've
bits.
recorded an album, you can also submit a comedy bit.
Get out.
Yeah.
That's great. I will. I'm going to let lots of people know.
Just
And
go-
I like the mix of genres we've been getting.
Yeah,
so I
we've been
really
getting a
want
lot
to
of-
encourage that. I need some more hip hop for sure. And yeah, just any genre.
Totally.
Instrumental with
flood your
lyrics.
inbox.
Good.
Cool.
Good.
And you can just go to our website, thedebriefdetroit.com, and you can submit it right there. What are we closing with today, Becky?
This is Revival by Peter Croce, friend of mine, and we've had him on the show before. He's a Detroit-based DJ, producer. He heads up Rocksteady Disco, that record label. This was his debut release. It was actually back on Inauguration Day in January 2017, and I thought it would be applicable to play it here in our election year. So it's basically a spiritual call to arms for house music lovers, if you will. It's called Revival.
Cool. We'll check it out. Until tomorrow, Detroit's moving.
Keep up.
My brothers and sisters, I come before you tonight as the preacher, the son of a preacher. Preacher immersed in the movement at 5 years old. I don't come tonight representing any organization, but I come to talk about faith and morality. I'm a preacher and I'm a theologically conservative, liberal, evangelical biblicist. I know it may sound strange, but I'm a conservative because I work to conserve a divine tradition that teaches us to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. I've had the privilege of traveling the country with the Reverend Dr. James Forbes and Reverend Dr. Tracy Blackman and Sister Simone Campbell as we are working together in the revival and calling for a moral revolution of values. And as we travel the country and we see some things, that's why I'm so concerned about those that say so much about what God says so little, while saying so little about what God says so much. And so, in my heart, I'm troubled, and I'm worried by the way faith is cynically used by some to serve hate, fear, racism, and greed. We need to heed the voice of the scriptures. We need to listen to the ancient chorus in which deep calls unto deep. The prophet Isaiah cries out, what I'm interested in seeing you doing, says the Lord, as a nation is, pay people what they deserve. Share your food with the hungry. Do this, and then your nation shall be called a repairer of the breach. Jesus, a brown-skinned Palestinian Jew, called us to preach good news to the poor, the broken, and the bruised, and all those who are made to feel unaccepted. Our Constitution calls us to commit our government to establish justice, to promote the general welfare, to provide for the common defense, and to ensure domestic tranquility. Now, to be true, we have never lived this vision perfectly, but this ought to be the goal and the heart of our democracy. And when religion is used to camouflage meanness, we know that we have a heart problem in America. There have always been forces that wanted to harden, even stop the heart of our democracy. But there have also always been people who stood together to stir what Sister Dorothy Day called a revolution of the heart, and what Dr. King called a radical revolution of values. I say to you tonight, that some issues are not left versus right, or liberal versus conservative. They are right versus wrong. We need to embrace our deepest moral values and push for a revival of the heart of our democracy. When we hear the legitimate discontent of Black Lives Matter, and we come together
The D Brief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.